at this point. And it was pretty cool. And then this was a game where things got very interesting. Because what we saw in the grand finals, what let Reynor down, was he was not as good at defending Lingbane Muta as Serral was. Serral showed that he was a god at shutting it down. I believe in one of the previous maps, he messed up and died to Lingbane Muta. And then in this game, Serral is going to show us some of the most perfect defense you will ever see against Lingbane Muta. And the big secret when you're defending against Mutas is Banelings. And this is actually something a lot of people didn't realize. Reynor didn't realize it. I didn't want to run on stage, but I kind of wanted to run on stage and tell Reynor to start making Banelings against Dark, because he wasn't using Banelings to shore up his defenses, and the Ling Bane run-bys were doing too much damage. And this is something Serral fixes. So we're just skipping by the early game. Check it. All right, let's go back. Let's go to 5 minutes and look at this from Serral's vision. Okay, so Serral's playing a normal game. They've both gone Ling Bane. They've both gone third bases. Serral's up in workers a little bit. That's partially because Reynor skipping out on the Roach tech. Like, he's got a Roach Horn, but he's going melee. He's going Spire. So Reynor is going to be playing Mutas. Now, does Serral know this? He does not yet. He has no idea. But Serral is a god of scouting, so we are going to see him do a bit more scouting in the near future. So we just lost a drone he accidentally rallied across. Good to see even he does that sometimes. This Overseer is going to be his first moment where he confirms what's up. So Overseer comes in, and Serral goes, you're going Mutas. So let's go to Serral's camera. He's looking around. He hasn't actually noticed the Spire. Okay, now he sees the Spire. Watch his response. He already had a drone ready to take a fourth because he was expecting this. Immediately drops a fourth. What else is he going to do? Queues up 3 queens. Starts another Evo chamber. So he wants to go double upgrades against this. And he makes a handful more Roaches and Banelings. So for anyone who's wondering how to defend Mutas, the answer is not to go Hydras. Eventually you can go Hydras. But in the immediate point, it is you need to secure a 4th base. If you can't get creep over here so that you've got spores here and connecting your bases and queens able to roam between, you will basically just get out-droned. Reynor drops a very early 4th. He will go up to 85 workers, and then he'll just rolling Bane Mutas in from all sides, and he'll have too much of an economy lead. You need to match that by getting your own 4th base up, okay? So Serral's whole plan here is, okay, build more queens, get creep out here. He's going to start spreading creep tumors down towards this base, which is awesome. But what is really cool is these extra Banelings. So notice how he's going to split up his units. He says, okay, Roaches up there. Let's split the Banelings. Okay, we've got a Baneling up on this base, a few Roaches and a Baneling to stop the Lings running in. Lings, Banes, Roaches. And he's always going to leave a few Banelings at each base once the aggression starts and split them between the two. Spore Crawlers here. These queens are all coming down. I'd love him. There we go. That creep tumor is finally going to connect it. Queens there, Roaches there, Ling Bane Roach. So he builds lots of Roaches just to make sure he can't take damage. And now Serral's goal is to drone that 4th base and get those gases up. He also makes an interesting change in that he doesn't just try to go to Hive for Vipers, which is what Reynor was sometimes doing, weird like Corruptor Viper counters, which I hate. I think it's terrible. You can play just Hydras into Vipers. The thing is, Infestors are such a good unit against the Banelings. So if you can get Infestors out, they ruin it. But you're not going to get them out in time. So you need Banelings to blow up the enemy Banelings that roll in. These Mutas are going to create problems for you. And look at that, 3 Infestors. Doesn't even wait for Pathogen Glands. Just goes straight for 3 Infestors so he can hit the fungal growth as quickly as possible. If he can get 3 fungals up, 20 Banelings roll in, you get 2 fungals on those 20 Banelings, they all die. So the Muta's going to try to cause problems. Serral's going to move his queens between his bases. He's got creep connecting them. Notice he's building 2 more spores in a central area. He's realizing, okay, just 1 spore at each base, probably not enough. I need to make sure this Muta count, as it grows, can't get in between my bases and fight the queens on their own. The queens will always need at least 1 spore crawler in some of these fights. Reynor doing a good job of being as annoying as he can. Does drop a Muta there a little bit sloppily. And he's getting to the point where he said, okay, we're at 78 drones. Bane speed's done. +1 melee is done. Let's go! Reynor's going to make a ton of Banelings and start trying to crush in. And this is the point where it heats up. Roaches and Banelings there. Roaches and Banelings here. Both bases are completely covered. We've got Spore. So those 2 spores he built, I think he moved them, I guess? Or did he cancel them? And look at this, the queen count. 11 queens. So why are queens so good? Number 1, they're super tanky. Mutas just take forever to kill them. A Muta does 9 damage. Queen has 175 hit points and an armor. More importantly, they are not light units. So not only do they counter the mutas, they also counter banelings really well. 175 hit points. A baneling does, I think it's like 20 damage versus a non-light unit. 35 versus a light unit. So basically, you've got 22 damage since it's got +1 melee. It's going to take like 9 banelings to kill a friggin' queen. It's an insane number of banelings. Queens are just an amazing unit to make sure you don't die here. And the thing is, Lingbane Muta does not have a lot of longevity. Queens are nearly useless once Ultras come out, but that is a long way away from here. Once Lurkers come out, not very useful either. That's a long way. The Mutaling Bane player, at least in the current meta, feels forced to simply mass mutas, Lings, Banes, do some economic damage, and then in the midst of that to transition. Now, I have no fucking idea what these 3 Corruptors were for, and if they were a mistake or not. I think Reynor derped. I think something weird happened in his brain. He messed it up. But anyway, let's watch this attack. So he comes in, he's like, oh shit, you got stuff there. Okay, let's rotate. Let's look for a new angle with this Ling Bane. Oh, okay. I mean, the Corrupted Piss is kind of cool, right? If you can catch the Queens way out of position, but I'm pretty sure it was a mistake. And Reynor just doesn't find any damage in this game. He ends up going up to 87 workers, but he just realizes, like, I can't do shit. At this same point, Reynor, or Serral in the previous games, were just getting destroyed by Baneling roll-ins. Banelings were rolling into the mineral lines. In this case, you roll Banelings in, even if the Queens and Roaches aren't in position, these 2 Banelings will blow up a big clump of Banes. These Banelings here will blow up a big clump of Banelings. There's just no way to get in there. And, yeah, you're super friggin' solid. And then he just starts branching Tunneling Claw Roaches across for harassment. And what does he do? He goes Lurkers, he continues his double upgrades, and he's just going to go for 3-3 Viper Lurker, which is the ultimate unbeatable composition in Zerg vs. Zerg, if you can get enough of it and use it correctly. Nothing beats Viper Ultra. Someone was saying, why didn't he make Broodlords? Broodlords beat Lurkers. The problem is, Broodlords can be abducted. So basically, you just have 10-15 Hydras and you just abduct the Broodlords in and one-shot them down with your Hydras. Broodlords are never used in Zerg vs. Zerg at high level because they just get wrecked by Viper Hydra. So they don't work out. Now, basically, Reynor couldn't find damage. I think he does finally swing in here. But yeah. Basically, you've got to understand your opponent's not going to thrust through the middle, or if they do, you can react to it. They're almost always going to come from the edges. So you always want to cover these outer flanks. And look, does he move these units away? No, he's still ready for Banelings to come in from this side. So Serral here, let's check his control groups. He has these Roaches up here are on a control group. His Infestors, a very important unit to micro, are on a control group. And he has these 2 Banelings on a control group, which he's not using, as well as all of his defense queens on number 5, his creep/defense queens. Something every high-level Zerg has a special control group for queens that are dedicated to fighting. And at this point of the game, Lava's not important for him. So he's actually got every single one of his queens on that control group. He doesn't have dedicated injecting queens. He just throws extra injects on the hatcheries whenever he remembers to, which is not very important at this stage of the game, okay? So at this point, he actually doesn't have his Lurkers control group, doesn't have some of these Roaches control grouped. Not all of his units are control grouped at this point, guys. Like, if I select that Roach control group, Roaches, Lurkers, they're not on that key. So this is just a really calm, awesome defensive setup. And we see here the Muta's like, hey, we don't care about Spore Crawlers. Serral's like, well, Mass Transfuse makes you care. And even though Reynor takes out one Spore there, doesn't get the second Spore, loses a few Mutas, and is like, oh god, this is so costly. Knows the other Queens are about to arrive, knows Fungal could hit him at any time, and he's just screwed. And sorry, let's turn that in-game sound off, because I'm going to 8 times speed it, and the audio in StarCraft goes a bit crazy. Oh, he actually goes again, doesn't he? Okay. And we're going to see why Fungal is so OP. If your opponent crashes in with Lingbane. Oh, he's even got Lurkers up by this point. Yeah, this is just like, you can't do anything here as Reynor. Don't roll into that. You're screwed. You're screwed, buddy. And he also goes Ultras here, I believe. But it's like, he's so far behind on this. He tries to go Nidus Worm, which is a really cute idea. I love that Reynor tries that. But he's dead. He can't get in. Too far behind. Your opponent's unbreakable at that point. You're screwed. Let's hop out of that Reaper. So that was perfect defense against the Mutas. It was a really quick 4th base, dropping creep with an Overlord, putting the Spore Crawler down. Awesome. That was amazing, right? That was fantastic. Now let's look at the next game. Game 5. It's tied up 2-2 apiece. Reynor vs. Serral. Insane back and forth series. Lots of fun. And what was really cool, same thing we saw in the grand finals. We actually see the player who's not as known for the Mutalisk style, in this case Serral in the top left, he is actually going to go Mass Muta. Mass Muta Lingbane, and he is going to be playing against Reynor, and Reynor is not going to defend it properly. And we're going to see some differences. I don't think this was a Corruptor game. I think this was Reynor just trying to defend with like Roach Hydra, Lurker of Queen Spore, I think. Obviously, we saw so many Zerg vs. Zergs on the same maps. We'll check. But yeah. A lot of people are asking, is a Lurker transition superior to a Ultra transition? He should have gone Lurkers. He should have gone Lurkers. Roddy was saying this as well. I actually do like the Lurker transition, especially as a change-up. I actually think the Ultra transition is better, though. And we'll get to it later in this game, because that's what we want to talk about most of all in this game. So Reynor gets a fast 4th up, right? Which is awesome. He's building extra queens 3 at a time. Unfortunately for Reynor, right when he scouted the Spire in this game, I believe this was the one where he was supply blocked. If we go back like a minute. So remember, it was about 5 minutes when Serral scouted the mutas. Let's see when Reynor scouts it. Remember, Serral's such a god because he scouts so well, and he gets wind of what's going on. Reynor hasn't scouted the Spire yet. He scouts the Spire when it's finished. And only then he goes, oh shit, let's start queens. He wasn't supply blocked, no, that was a different game. But he's just scouting it like a minute later. As opposed to soon after the Spire's finishing, he's just scouted it later. And that's why, you know, Serral always has that Overlord there. Moment the lair's done, he's like, bam, make an Overseer fly in. But Reynor wasn't as mentally prepared for this. Reynor was like, oh, I'm just going to set up it for a normal Roach versus Roach game. I assume you're playing Roaches because you do that a lot more than me. So you can see that Serral being mentally prepared for Reynor to play the Reynor style, +1 melee upgraded Zerglings, actually gave him a big head start on this, and he was able to get a Spore Crawl already up here and stuff. But the biggest problem is going to happen now, where Reynor, who has a Baneling Nest, does not use it in the next few minutes. So the mutas are already here, and he's like, shit, I don't even have my queens and my creep out. Oh shit, I haven't connected. Remember, I said creep is one of the biggest things. I don't have a Spore here. Oh no. So he's so distracted, he's scrambling, and he forgets about the Banelings. Now, he's making a lot of Roaches, which is nice, but his Roaches are all on one control group. As opposed to Serral, who split his Roaches up and didn't even have them all control grouped, and always left half here and half down here, Reynor gets a bit messed up. Now, Reynor does split 4 Roaches off there, but 4 Roaches is not enough. Now, I think they block these first Banelings, but Serral actually sees the Roaches. He's like, oh, let's go anyway, maybe. If they were Speed Banes, you can see they get in the mineral line, right? So Reynor does split a few more Roaches off here, and then he's trying to threaten with his Roaches. He's trying to keep Serral's mutas away from going in the back. He's saying, look, I might attack you, you gotta watch out. So Reynor's doing this, like, run out with the Roaches, try to catch Morphing Banes, try to force the mutas to come away from the harassment. So this is all good stuff. But the big difference is we should have a few Banelings here, a few Banelings here. Because we don't, we're not going to be able to stop. 12 Speed Banes are going to roll in. Roaches don't do that much damage. Also, if you are relying on just Roaches, remember what Serral did sometimes? You want to have the Roaches creating a solid wall here. On this case, a Roach or 2 here and like 4 or 5 Roaches here. So the Baneling's going to have to go around to get in the mineral line. That's going to be much better. But if there's a hole and they can just run straight into the mineral line, that's where you end up screwed up as a player. Reynor goes for a much faster hive. He wants to go Vipers. He does build some Infestors, which is nice. As like a stopgap, he's like, oh yeah, we'll just go Infestors, you know, and then head up to like Lurkers. I don't think he has a Hydra Den yet in this game. So yeah, he wants to go Viper Infestor and skip out on the Hydras because Hydras are a bit fragile against the Banes. But he's going to start panicking and grouping his Roaches up. Maybe he does it more in the finals than this game. I can't quite remember. But look, Roaches aren't in position. They need to be there. They need to be there. Those Roaches need to be there. And you need Banelings. So we're going to see Serral here come in from all sides. This is what Mutiling Bane always does against Roach styles. This is so brave, by the way. Even baits out a Fungal. But look at this. He actually does pretty good with a quick drone pull and lands a Fungal. But that could have gone so bad. If he had 2 Banelings there, 2 Banelings could have just rolled into that. It's a much simpler hold. It's much more free, and it means even if you're not looking, often those Banelings will stop it. So imagine if you got those 2 Banelings. Now, obviously, if Serral's really good, he might focus those Banelings down. But remember, Serral would often keep the Banelings back here. So you pull the drones away, those Banelings run forward. And 2 Banelings into that clump of Banes. Oh man, that's going to blow up like 8 Banelings, right? What was really funny is I felt Serral fucked this engagement up. I think you should always attack from as many sides as possible. Because what has this attack done? It's drawn the Infestors and all the Queens down here. Which means Reynor's attention's here, as well as his Spellcasters. His attention's not up here. So I think he should have gone in on this side at the same time. I think this was a big screw-up by Serral. And he gets incredibly lucky that Reynor makes a huge mistake and is just not watching. His roaches, as I said, if they were all up there, they stop these banelings for the most part getting in this mineral line. If you have a few banelings as well, it's going to be huge. So roaches have to be on those outer edges blocking, creating at least a semi-wall. And this was where everything started to go terribly wrong. Hatchery goes down, whole drone line goes down. And it's going to keep happening now. Serral's like, oh, I've got momentum. I've just been killing your economy. You can't keep up now. Serral realizes that he can do this. Bit of a mistake with his Muta Micro. Let a Muta die to a Spore. Where are the Banelings? You absolutely need a few Banelings spread around these bases. You've got to have those roaches. Where are the roaches? Guess what? He's panicked. Where... Did he lose a lot of roaches? Well, he's got 26 roaches. Where are they? Why are they all on this side? No! Reynor. So Reynor in the panic. The adrenaline's kicked in. It's his first BlizzCon. He's still 17. Remember, he doesn't have as much tournament experience as Serral. So Reynor's here, and he's gone and put all of his army back on one control group. So the moment things started to go wrong, Reynor's heart rate jumped up. He panicked a little bit, and he started making big mistakes because he went back to what's every Zerg's comfort zone. What's all of our comfort zone? It's our whole army on one control group running around, dictating the fight, bringing it together. It's a little bit more uncomfortable to split your army up and sit it in multiple areas, some of which aren't even on control groups. And he starts running back and forth. And you see there? He just split some roaches off, realizing, oh, I don't have roaches. I need some up there. Number one, that's not enough roaches. Number two, that was a redundant piece of APM. I talked to you guys about redundant APM cycles. It's where a lot of low league players, they get dropped. They run their whole army up. The drop picks up and leaves. They run their whole army away. They run their whole army up to respond to the drop. They run their whole army away. And I'm like, why not just split the army off once? Or they split the army off. They separate the control group. They move back. The opponent pushes across the map with an army. They panic and they F2, control group their whole army together and bring it to the front. And just after they've literally undone all of that work, splitting their army up, the drop comes back in and kills them. This is the same situation here. It's very rare to see this at high level play because Reynor normally doesn't make mistakes like that. But at the same time, no one is as much of a defensive god as Serral. He's the guy who's much calmer sitting there and setting up his defenses. You can see Reynor, more of an aggressive player. His comfort zone was much more focused on being on the offense. So he kept defaulting to not splitting his army up quite as correctly as he should have. Now that was a bad Ling run by for Serral there. But Serral has got this game in the bag, guys. Arguably, he could have droned up a lot harder and gone up to 85 workers. Now, people have told me at the start of this, he was on Lambo's stream, Serral, and he said the reason he built, he said that he's never actually played Ultras before in ZVZ. He's never really played that. He hasn't played too much of this Lingbane Muta. He normally wins with the Lingbane Muta. And that is going to give some explanation for this transition not being as good as it would like. Now, at this point, this is all fine. He's got a way bigger economy. He can take these trades, even if they're not cost efficient. And they are. They're a little bit cost inefficient. You're now at 80 drones versus 45. There is literally no way to lose this game outside of your opponent landing the sickest spells and you really fucking up, right? This is a situation you would never expect Serral to lose from. That's what's so mind-boggling to a lot of players. A lot of people feel Ultras were the throwing unit. He shouldn't have gone Ultras. They're a bad unit. They're not good in this matchup. And I'm going to tell you all why you're wrong. Ultras are the best transition off this army. Why? You've got +2 melee and you've got mutas. You have one of the most mobile, fast-paced armies in the book. Not just that, you have forced a ton of spellcasters. Infestors and Vipers are not good against Ultras. Now, I know you can block Ultralisks with Infested Terrans. Trust me, that does not counter Ultralisks unless the Ultra player is being really silly. And that's what Serral, unfortunately for him, is going to do this game. These Baneling run bys are great. His transitioning is on 80 workers. I'd love a 5th base to be up at this point. You actually do need a pretty fast 5th with this style. And I don't mind, if you're going to roll this many Banelings, I don't mind like 90 drones, you know? It does start to get a little bit wasteful. It's also something where obviously you don't want to build any more mutas because they're hard counted. Ultras are incredible, but you need to spread out with them, and you need to go for Vipers. So the bees come down. He shouts, oh no, not the bees! But good splits from Serral, super calm. At this point, Lurkers are out. Once Lurkers are out, or once they have good defenses up, you can't rely on these Baneling run bys. You can, what you do is you split your Ling Bane up into big packs on those flanks, ready so when your opponent pushes you, you can either surround them or you can run in and base trade. And often, the actual weak spot isn't on the flanks, but it's through the middle. So if you can break those rocks down, or these rocks, you actually want to go to the natural and the main. That's the soft spot. Because they're going to be focused on having Lurkers burrowed at their 4th. If you're still relying on Ling Bane, they're useless in a frontal fight once there's a certain number of Lurkers out. Like, it's just no point having Ling Bane in that fight. A bit can be okay if they've got a lot of Hydras. Like, you can have 30, 40 Banes as long as they're coming from multiple angles, but that's the maximum. But mostly, you look for the base trade. Break these rocks with the mutas. Try to get through once your opponent moves on the map. In the meantime, you're getting Vipers out the moment your hive finishes. Wait a second. Serral has not built any Vipers. The Vipers are the most important unit because if you go with Ultras, they need to keep their whole ball clumped up. They need to put infested Terrans to block your Ultras, or your Ultras are going to just come in with a flank and you will crush Lurker, Hydra, Infester. So because the Lurkers, the Infestors are forced to stay relatively together, you have to Blinding Cloud them or abduct Lurkers out of the ground, that sort of stuff. Serral clearly had no experience with this style, and he kind of didn't know what he was doing with it. It's so rare to see Serral. Normally he would figure it out, but he just kept massing Ling Bane. And even though he builds 7 Ultras here, he tries to use the Ling Bane, number 1, with the army. And then number 2, he doesn't have Vipers. Vipers are the best unit ever. You need Vipers. It's like engaging with slow Banelings versus Stim Marines off creep is what you're doing. If you're engaging Lurker Hydra without Blinding Clouds, it makes no sense. It's also something, like I said, if you're still not on a mass Ultra Viper army yet, which takes a long time to get up to, it's a very expensive army, you want to be base trading, doing run buys, the Nidus Worm. Remember that Desperation Nidus Worm that Reynor tried in that last game? Serral should be doing that right now. He should be dropping Lings, dropping Banelings in the back. Like I said, don't look for the exposed edges. That's where the Lurkers are burrowed. Start hitting towards the middle of their base once they move on the map. And you want to get as many Ultras and up to maybe even 4 or 5 Vipers for maximum, 6, 8 Blinding Clouds, maybe even 10 Blinding Clouds, and you'll do it. The last thing you ever want to do with this army is engage their army front on, because your army is just not cut out for that. So, we've got Kindness Blading Ultras, but there's only 3 of them. This is mostly a Ling Bane army, and he is attacking into Reynor's consolidated area of defenses. 9 Lurkers, a pack of Hydras, Infestors. Infested Terran force fields are amazing if you're running into an army from one angle. If you're flanking it, if you're blinding clouding it, if you're surrounding it, they're terrible. If you're attacking elsewhere, it's also terrible. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. Reynor had a nice setup here. He did have a Lurker there as well. I mean, I really feel like you got to take these rocks down. You've got to be attacking in. I wouldn't mind you saying, oh, the army's over here. Attack with all the Ultras from this side. And the Ling Bane just tries to run into the natural in the main. But you cannot fight into Lurkers with Ling Bane. This army supply is worthless. And we're going to see one of the worst fights Serral's ever taken in his career, unfortunately. The Banelings did almost nothing there. Fungals land on the mutas. And that was an appallingly bad fight. That was about he went from 1,000 resources or 500 resources behind to like 5,000 resources behind. So it's fine if you just build Vipers right now as Serral. You've still got such a big economy. If you just build Vipers and pure Ultra, you'll be fine. He's remaxing on Zergling Baneling. He is adding some Ultras, but not that many, and no Vipers. He's starting to go into Lurkers himself, which is a transition you can make, but that to me shows that Serral is not comfortable. He doesn't understand how to make this style work. Often there will be a soft spot. The defensive Lurker player is going to have most of their defenses in one area, and the other areas are where you can attack. And often you can run straight past with Ultras as well. So you can run through here with Ultras, run up, and just break the natural wall and run into their base. Lurkers are not a particularly mobile unit, but you've got to bypass them and go for the drones. Any moment, a Baneling, a couple of Adrenalings, or an Ultra get in a mineral line, Reynor's economy just disappears. Like, his work account is the fragile part that you want to be trading on, right? Or you want Reynor to come out into the open, and you want to be blinding clouding. The problem here is he keeps trying to roll Banelings into mass Lurker, and now he's got mass Ultras out. That's actually a 10 Ultra army. You add even 4 Blinding Clouds to this, guys, and you will fuck shit up. But look at that. A beautiful Spore Crawler wall. He's already given Reynor so much time to stabilize with a maxed out Lurker army, and he's still making Ling Bane as a big part of his army. Now he starts to Nidus Worm, but it's a little bit too little too late. It's happening at the same time as nothing else, right? And he's going to attack here with pure Ultra. No Blinding Clouds. He actually crashes through those first Vipers really well. And if he pulled back right now, it wouldn't be too bad. If he had split some Ling Bane into that base, Ling Bane can come in after the Ultras, crash through the Lurkers. He could have killed all 16 workers. But now he's getting somewhat trapped. And look at that. Infested Terrans trying to trap them. Losing a lot of Ultras down here. But it's at that moment where Ling Bane should have been running in the left. So this might be like, oh, Reynor's army is just better. No, Reynor had to scramble everything over there to defend that. And that's with no blinding clouds. The Ling Bane is not for fighting the army. It is for hitting the economy. It is for bypassing it. The moment you get Lings in a mineral line, 6 Zerglings with +3 in Adrenal, this worker line disappears in about 5 seconds, guys. And that's what Reynor was missing in this game. Serral was missing. He didn't make Vipers, and it was just... This is not how you play Ultras. You need the Vipers. They are the force multiplier of this army. A lot of players will even get a single Infestor or two to try to... If they push out like this, you drop Fungal Blinding Cloud on this army and come in with Ultras, and you are looking at just such a weak army. Now, this army, now that it's out of the map, this is so easy to engage with Ultra Viper, but Serral's army is not Ultra Viper. It is Mutas, it is Banelings, it is Zerglings, no Vipers still, and only 6 Ultras, some of which are heavily wounded. This is not how you play Ultralisks. So people keep asking me, Pig, why did he go Ultras? Why did he throw the game? He didn't throw it. He just wasn't experienced with Ultras. He didn't know how to use them. Ultras are one of the sickest transitions from here. It is so hard to defend as the Lurker player if you've taken all that damage. Now, if you're as the Lurker player, by the time the Ultras first hit, you've got 80 drones, you've got Spore Spine, Lurkers everywhere. Don't get me wrong. Lurkers is the better long-term strategy, but the Ultras is an amazing momentum strategy. It just is beautiful momentum focus. And look at this fight for Serral. Not that bad, despite being mostly Banelings and Lings. Imagine if that fight happened with Blinding Clouds. Can you guys fucking imagine? It would have been game-changing. Absolutely insane. We've got a few people in chat. They're saying Pig. I think Blackie says, Broodlords. I felt really embarrassed for Serral. I can't believe he didn't go Broodlords. So I answered this before for anyone else who's asking. Broodlords are one of the worst units in Zerg vs. Zerg because of Abduct. So at this level, players are always using Vipers. So against someone going Viper Hydra, they will just abduct those Broodlords in one at a time and one-shot them. So Broodlords, it's something where if it surprises someone, sometimes it can look really good for a moment, and then they'll all just get abducted and killed. So Broodlords actually doesn't work at high-level Zerg vs. Zerg. It works... I will occasionally do a Broodlord switch for desperation, and if my opponent doesn't know that Viper's hard counter that, because they're like, wait, I've never played against Broodlords, they will die to it. And a lot of players don't play to such late-game ZVZ, so they don't realize that Vipers beat it. But Abduct Hydra ruins Broodlords, they do nothing. Still making Massling Bane, and he's still fighting front on. Serral, what are you doing in this game? Like we said, guys, this is just Serral played a style he wasn't used to. He should have gone straight into Lurkers, or he should have gone Vipers. Only now, when he's getting his ass kicked, is he going to start building Vipers at some point, after taking another 7 fights, that he just gets crushed here multiple times. I think he builds Vipers at this point. And he realizes here, when he's like down 50 supply, down in economy, he's both going to start building Vipers, and he's also going to start doing these really awesome Ultra Ling counterattacks that almost get him back in this game. He's expanding to the corners, he's running drones away from the harassment. Serral starts to do some awesome shit in the latter stages of this game, but it's too little too late. It was kind of like the Ling Bane he kept using as a frontal engagement force, but he didn't recognize the power spike that happens where those units are simply not useful for frontal engagements. They're for base trading, they're for hitting the economy, they're for dropping and Nidus worming. They're not useful in the frontal fight. Also, Blinding Clouds. There we go. Those Vipers start up here at 21 minutes. They're amazing units, but you need them a lot earlier in the game. So,
my man,
really unfortunate map here for Serral. He definitely did. I mean, Reynor said in the interview, I felt like I was getting my butt kicked in this game. But you know what? Mutiling Bane does fall off as the game goes on, so I knew if I hung in there, there's always a chance. And that's the attitude you've got to have as the Lurker Infestor Roach Hydra player. You're like, you know what? There's always a chance. And look at this. Ling run-bys, trying to get in there, doing little bits of damage. He's trying to hang on. It's too little too late. And I think we're going to see that Viper engagement soon. But he's got like 8 Ultras versus 14 Lurkers, 12 Hydras, 9 Roaches. He's going to need a sick flank on this army. He's going to need sick Blinding Clouds. And look at that, breaking the rocks down to cover the flank. Just sick plays here by Reynor. And also starts to spread his Lurkers out now that he knows there's Vipers on the field for Serral. So Reynor plays really well. Really nice game. He hangs in there, and he does honestly play so incredibly to get back in this game. I don't want to take anything away from Reynor here. He deserved this win. Because he fought hard and said, hey, if I hang in here and I fight my heart out, you know what? You might just overextend on the Mutiling Bane. Yeah, he got damned lucky, don't get me wrong. But you know what? He played better under pressure. And Serral made some massive mistakes. So what was unfortunate about this is Reynor has way better Ultra usage in late game. But Serral is a much better defensive Roach player than Reynor. We saw Reynor fall way behind in this game. And, I mean, it's over from here. He's dead. He gets killed. Let's go to the Dark Reynor series and look at some of those games where Reynor fell apart. Because Reynor showed the same mistakes that he had there against Serral with not using Banelings and not splitting his Roaches correctly. Same problems against Dark. And this was the stuff which Serral showed in one map versus Reynor. There was one map where he died to the Lingbane Muta. He fell behind, kept taking economic damage. And the next game, Serral was like, I've got Banelings here. I have my Roaches split off control group on both flanks, perfectly positioned. I've got Mass Queen roaming between the bases, dealing with the Mutas. And Serral showed the perfect defense. So I think it was really cool to see the different skills of each player in those games. I can't remember which maps Dark did Mutas in. So we're just going to fast forward these games quickly, guys. I think game 1 he might have done it. I'm trying to remember what happened in this game. I try not to promote, like, gratuitous swearing, Keen Blizzard. I have a rule, which I'm pretty bad at following, but I try to, for myself, which is, swearing should be for exclamation. It shouldn't just be filler words, right? It shouldn't be like, Like, you shouldn't say fuck just as, right? But you can say it, but it should be for exclamation, right? So, we try to not encourage people to just be like, fucking shit, cunt, fuck. But, yes, you're allowed to swear. We don't, I don't know, my auto mod might catch some things, but we usually manually click allow on those messages. It's just one of those things where we want to try and use the English language and not just speak like a bunch of morons, guys. Which I do all the time. Sometimes I find myself just being like, FF, you know, shit, etc. And I'm like, okay, you like, use your words, pig. You sound like a moron, man. Like, let's speak some proper English, shall we? Yeah, so this was Dark going Mutiling Bane. So, what I was really disappointed at is those changes that Serral made, Reynor was not able to make. Now, obviously, Reynor's been, what, a year and a half on the big stage, if even that. Valencia 2018 was his first big Premier tournament that he was, because he just turned 17, was where we finally let him play that tournament, right? Or he just turned 16, sorry. He's like 17 and a half now. He's still not even 18 years old. So, I mean, I understand, especially biggest stage of your life, grand finals at Blizzcon. That crowd is epic. But remember, where's the creep spread? First of all, guys, I talked about how connecting your bases with creep is one of the most important things. Reynor remembers that a little bit late. Reynor also scouts the Mutas just a little bit late as well. So his queen count never growing quite as quickly as Serral's. Also, he doesn't keep building queens. Remember, Serral went like 11 queens. First mistake. What are the Roaches doing in a blob, guys? We've talked about this. This is the big problem. Roaches, half should be here. Well, at this point, you don't even have many drones there, so maybe just chilling here. And half should be up on that flank. He doesn't have that. Why are these Banelings even allowed in this mineral line? That should not be happening. Doesn't get any damage, but it's fortuitous. This shows what's going to keep happening non-stop throughout this series. Every time Dark goes Mutas, Reynor keeps his army in a blob. Now, in this game, he's going straight Hydra Lurker. So he's not going for the Infestors this game, which I think is a big mistake. I think at least a couple of Infestors is just why not, you know? Go for it. Infestation Pit now goes down. But more importantly, he stopped queen production. He's not splitting his army up. So, I mean, you can make Roach Hydra Lurker work, and then if your opponent keeps massing Mutas, you go up to Hive, add some Vipers, and it's like, well, you got Lurkers to counter Ling Bane, and then, you know, Parasitic Bomb to counter the Mutas, and it's a really nice style. But his army's, there we go. So he's splitting up a bit better now. He's got a Baneling. And this is the point where I was watching backstage in the green room, and I was shouting at the screen going, Reynor, you need Banelings. They should not be allowed to run in with Ling Bane like this. You just have a few Banelings peppered there and here, and this Ling Bane just cannot do this. Having a few Banelings spread through your defense is such a game changer. But because he didn't have that, even though he reacts well and he defends nicely, look at that, +2 Baneling. Oh, it was only +1 actually, +2 is not quite done. Gets a lot of those drones into the red. Almost catastrophic damage. Not quite, but guess what? The Queen's just got wrecked. And guess what? Reynor's just gone, oh shit, pull my Roaches. I need everything over there to defend. Pulled his Roaches from this base. And the Ling Bane's going to find the money. Mutas get in there and kill the Spore because he lost the Queens to the Zerglings and Banelings. So, number 1, use Banelings for defense. Number 2, spread your units across your bases a little bit earlier. Number 3, make sure you go up to at least 10 Queens. You do those things, this game does not get this messy. You shut down that wave of aggression as Reynor, you're like, sweet, let's go Hive, let's go Adaptive Talons, let's go Lurkers, let's go Vipers. But because he didn't do that, this game got really messy. And let's see if we can fast forward. I think the game resets at some point to the same situation. And I think, if I remember correctly, Dark just keeps rolling in. And even though there's a lurker on this base, a lurker is not enough. Banelings could still roll on that mineral land. There's a bit of a crazy attack here by Dark. Dark's such a psychopath, man. He focuses that lurker down so quickly that he actually kind of babysits those banelings right up into the hydras, gets a few drones, and the mutas dive on the vipers. He feels the momentum, he feels the tempo, and he knows, I got to get on top of this, take advantage of it. My window's now. I'm not going to let you get parasitic bomb energy. I'm not going to let you get infestors. I'm not going to let you shore up your defenses, because I know your composition is better than mine in the long term. And I'm Dark. I'm sitting on 74 workers. I'm not going 85 drones in a 5th base and up to Hive and Ultras. He's like, I'm going to look for a lot more damage now. I can go to that later if we get there, but for now, I'm going to fuck you up with this momentum. Because if I let you get the Infestors, the Vipers, the Hydras, the Lurkers all together, your army is so much better than mine. Mutilating Bane is not good at fighting that. We saw that in that last game, and things can go terribly wrong. From here, it's game over. Dark's crushed him in game number 1. And that's going to continue in the series, which is a bit unfortunate for Reynor. I also want to look at Ephemeron, because that was a real unfortunate game. Oh, actually, you know what? No. Sorry, not Ephemeron. Thunderbird. Okay, this was where Dark literally did the stupidest build I've ever seen, just because he wanted Zerg to get nerfed. He wanted to get the Nidus Worm. I've done this on this map. Some of you guys who've watched my Pig, Twitch Plays Pig and some of my other Star-Lord streams would have seen me try to go Swarm Host Nidus against Zerg, and I only do it on this map, because this is the only map where you can make it work. And even then, it's so fucking silly, and it only works if I'm playing someone who I'm stronger than. And Reynor is literally so ahead in this game, because it is just such a stupid build. Like, Swarm Host is just so bad in Zerg vs. Zerg. It's too fast-paced of a matchup. So he's way behind, and I'm like, you silly styling motherfucker. And then we see what is the pattern of this tournament, which is players defending Nidus Worms really well for about 5 minutes, then moving out on the map, missing one Nidus Worm, and losing the game in about 6 seconds, and us all going, well, that was disgusting. Part of that is because the map's so big. Even when they move out, they can't get to the opponent's side of the map quickly enough, whereas often, you let a Nidus Worm pop up on a smaller map, it doesn't even matter, because you're in their base killing them. On these big maps, players weren't able to counter-push the Nidus Swarm Host player as much as we would have liked. And I actually forgot until I just saw this replay. I was like, oh shit, I forgot this game. This game was so tragic, man. This was so tragic. Yeah, the big map pool, combined with the Nidus nerfs not going through yet. The Nidus is too cheap, and it's too queuable. You can queue it up, which means it takes very little APM to use, is the big problem with it at the moment. Alright, if I missed a question, repost it in chat now while we're fast forwarding this game, guys. Dark was flexing so hard during this tournament, says D Musings. It looks like it, but he actually wasn't. As much as I say this is a silly build, Dark actually thought, you know what, grand finals, young kid, bit nervous. I know this is going to tilt him, because it is hard to deal with. Swarmers are one of those units where technically if you respond really well, it's terrible, but like they need to respond really well and stay calm under pressure. I don't think Dark would have even tried this versus Serral. I think he kind of had a better read on Reynor as an opponent, and he said to himself, you know what? Let's try it. I think Reynor's mentality might break down. This would not have worked against Serral, like 100%. Serral would have just stayed calmer under pressure. But I think Dark was like, nah. Because if you look at Dark, this was the most serious I've ever seen him at a tournament. Normally, Dark shit talks so much. Not just on foreigners, on his opponents. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't like Dark because he always shits on foreigners. You guys have got to understand, Dark shit talks everyone. Every interview he does, he's like, my opponent's trash. He's shit. I'm way better. They're like, oh, you lost to this guy last time. Are you looking for revenge? He's like, well, yeah, I never should have lost to him. He's half my skill level. I'll never lose to him again. I'm going to crush him. Like, that's the sort of shit Dark says in his interviews. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but he's very cocky. He's always been super cocky, ever since 2015 when he first really came up to be a top player. Dark has been a cocky bastard. This tournament, there was so little shit talk from him. He was, like, dead serious the entire time. You look at him on that stage, and he wasn't giving Smix anything. She's like, you know, blah, blah, blah. You feel he's like, I'm just focused on the next match. I want to get into the next match. I don't want to even talk about the last game. And she's like, okay, I can't get you to say anything interesting, because he was killer mode. The thing is, Dark often does dumb builds, in quotation marks, because like I said, even though he's a great macro player, he has a big understanding of how to make himself a gigantic problem to play against, right? He's a very difficult player to play against because he does lots of crazy shit, lots of weird shit. And he's got such range as a player. When someone's as good in a macro game as Dark, and also good at cheesing, it's really scary. It's also because he's not as standard. Someone like Stats or Serral doesn't cut as many corners in a macro game. Dark, because people are afraid of him doing his aggression, and that was a big screw up. They're so afraid of him doing his aggression. A lot of players don't actually expect... Good save here to get these Swarm hosts out. They don't expect, they're like, oh shit, I'm worried about the aggression, blah, 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 blah. And then, basically Dark is like, oh, I have 5 more drones than I should because I'm being a greedy shithead. And you're like, oh, he's actually unstoppable because he just cut a corner. He gambles a little bit more. Dark, like Serral is a much safer player, I would say, who just makes himself ahead by actually scouting everything and countering exactly what his opponent's doing. Whereas Dark more makes himself impossible to read, and that's how he beats his opponents, and he uses a lot of momentum, puts a lot of pressure on, both mentally and with physical moves in the game. Like Nidus Swarm Host here, very difficult to play against. Now, Dark lost his fourth and had to defend with a wall of spines. That's why this style is bad. It's because the only way he could survive Roach versus Roach, even though Reynor was taking some damage, is like your opponent could just push in and kill you. Roach versus Roach, if you waste... In this case, there's only 8 Swarm Hosts left because he lost 2 of them. Oh, no, he's rebuilt a few of them. He's actually back up to 11. That's 11 times, 3 supply, right? I'm pretty sure Swarm Hosts are 3 supply at the moment. So what is that? 33 supply. That's 16 Roaches. He's going to be 16 Roaches down in a Roach battle. You just don't win that fight in Zerg versus Zerg. And with how fast Roach battles can... Like, someone can just push across with Roaches, force a fight, you're dead. The only way Dark could hang on was with a lot of Ravages and Spines on this ramp, which means he is a base down this entire time. Now, I would have loved Reynor to take this a step further and take a 5th on the other side. So in case he loses a base from the Swarm Host at one point, he's always got another base. As long as he doesn't lose all his drones, he's good. And I think Reynor was playing really well. He's shutting down the Niduses where he can, but he's also counter-pushing and saying, hey, I'm up a base. You can kill a few extra of my units, quote, in quotes, for free, but that's not going to be the end of the world. Now, this was an awkward fight. I actually don't like the way Reynor took this fight, because I think he let the Locusts do a crazy amount of damage there. It felt a little bit awkward. It doesn't matter, though, because as long as he doesn't lose the whole engagement in the base and protects that, he's still in a good position. What was really cool is the way Dark transitioned off this. He did it the exact same way he did against Protoss, where what was Dark's goal? It was to get up Lurkers. Now, where's his Lurker? Has he forgotten to... He was very slow to put his Lurker down because he's busy microing his heart out. And they're fighting, and Reynor's trying to force the Swarm Hosts out defensively, and Reynor's like, that's fine. You got to use the Locusts defensively. That means even though there's a Nidus on my side of the map, you can't actually kill my bases with them. And he is actually expanding to the other side as I wanted him to do. And he's like, oh, I'm going to kill your 4th base again, buddy. You're back to 3 base versus 5. You having fun there with your shitty Swarm Host style? So at this point, Reynor has played very well against this. He is ahead. He's in a good position. Even though these guys come out and Dark says, well, I'm on 3 base, but I can still do some damage. And he does some nice damage there. Gets a few drones. What we're going to see is the fact that this Nidus is so spammable. So Dark is literally just queuing Nidus worms up on the map. Sometimes he's queuing them, sometimes he's not, but he's literally just spamming. He's like, throw a Nidus here, throw a Nidus here, throw a Nidus here. They cost almost nothing, and he can queue them up, which is just bullshit. And I think this is this the one that wins the game? Oh my god, he just got that natural as well with a Locust Wave. Oh, that was it. This one. Yeah, this is the one in the natural. So then it was like, Reynor's like, okay, I'm keeping you back, I'm doing good, you gotta defend, you gotta defend, you gotta defend. And Dark just played the map really well. It's such a big map, he used these spines. And Reynor's like, okay, I killed your 4th again. I'm in a good spot. And then he just isn't on top of these Nidus worms. They're just getting spammed like crazy. How can you cover every side? Look, his Roaches moved down to defend that Nidus worm. If you get Lurker Nidus in ZVZ, you're fucking dead. If you're not in position and they get control here, you're just screwed. Like, Reynor's only choice here is literally to give up his main, rebuild his tech, and just avoid fighting. He's just got to hold position here. His own Lurker Den's too late. He doesn't have Vipers out yet. If he had some Vipers, that would have changed. If he could Blinding Cloud this, he would have been able to run through and engage it. And he just gets killed by this one Nidus worm. So I thought Reynor was playing great, was really stabilized. He was up in economy all game. And then it was like, you know, at one moment, oh, this Nidus got up, Locust killed this base. Oh, this Nidus distracted you, allowing this Nidus to get up, Lurkers are in your base, bam, you're dead. We saw that it's the low risk factor, right? It's the same thing people complain about with Warp Prisms, where they're like, oh, you don't even have to commit, but if one big Zealot Warping gets in and I'm not there, I lose everything. We saw that times 1,000 with this Nidus worms, because the map pool's so big, there's these super easily defensible choke points. On any other map, Reynor would have been able to get in and kill one of his bases and knock him back to 2 bases early. This map takes forever for him to get across. He should have mined these minerals down as well to open up a quicker path. And when he gets there, there's one attack path with a friggin' arc of spine crawlers on top of it. This is the map pool's problem. I talked about it in depth yesterday when I was talking about balance at this tournament and why Zerg was overpowered and why Swarmhost and Nidus were overpowered. The map pool was way too big, and I'm going to echo it again. I love Rotterdam's idea. We should play the best maps from throughout the entire year. We should not be playing a new map pool that is both not figured out and is sometimes tilted it one way or the other. We should take a split of the maps from across the year. You know, Maru won a championship in Season 1. Why aren't we playing some of these games on the maps that Maru won that championship in, right? You know, what if Showtime won Season 1 this year of WCS? Isn't it a bit shitty that he doesn't get to play on any of those maps? Roddy's been saying this for a long time. He's been on and on about Best of 5, and Best of 5 made Blizzcon an amazing tournament. But, I mean, we need a better map pool for the grand finals of the year. You cannot just play a brand new map pool. This map pool was too big, and the fact that Nidus and Swarmhost... I mean, Swarmhosts, their weakness is the fact that your opponent can push across the map and kill you. But you can't do that on a big map, which should be balanced because the Swarmhosts also can't get over to your side of the map safely to throw locusts at you. And the Nidus Worm combined with the Swarmhost just created... combined with like Nidus, Swarmhost, and Giant map pool, it was like, oh wait, this is just a trifecta of bullshit. And that's why we saw Swarmhost Nidus just dominating this tournament, even here in a Zerg vs. Zerg, which is an absolute travesty. I can't watch any more, guys. That's terrible. I'm trying to remember what happened in the final games. Let me just open Disco Bloodbath and we'll fast forward that one. And questions, guys, questions. Shout them out. I'm going to actually read them. I'm sorry I missed them all. Repost them if you haven't, if I missed them. Is the need for bigger maps due to the worker change in Legacy? No, they just decided to go for a bigger map pool. We do get some cool long games, but it revealed imbalance with Swarmhost Nidus. You know, it wasn't even the Infested Broodlord, which is what everyone was worried about this tournament, right? We didn't see that too much. It was mostly the fact that Swarmhost Nidus looked a little bit too powerful. But, I mean, the map pools just rotate around stylistically, and yeah. Yeah, Ephemeron was my favorite map in this map pool, and it got vetoed a lot at the tournament. A lot of Zergs just vetoed Ephemeron. And Winter's Gate, the other map, which is not too gigantic, also got vetoed a lot. So it was a bit unfortunate. Do you think Serral vs. Dark would have been focused around the Nidus? Oh, absolutely, but I think it would have been a lot more Roach vs. Roach. I'm not sure if Dark would have tried to play Muta Zergling Baneling against Serral, but I think if he did, Serral would have shut it down. I'm pretty confident Serral would have beat Dark. I think that last game versus Reynor, it was clearly him out of his element. I don't know, maybe Serral was tired or something. You know, condition always affects everybody, but I don't think that answers why Serral looked so lost with that composition. I think Serral probably would have beat Dark. I think it probably would have been a closer series. I think there would have been a lot more Roach versus aggro Roach from Dark. You know, I said at the start of this series on the desk, I said this series is going to be about Reynor trying to pull back and play more of an EU-style, Roach-focused style. Dark is going to throw the classic Korean, just pedal to the metal. I'm going to put pressure on you from the start. I'm going to be attacking, whether with Mutas, Lingbane, or Mass Roach. I'm going to be attacking you. I'm going to be throwing Nidus Worms at you. And the onus is on you to defend perfectly. And I felt like, you know what, Reynor playing defensive Roach is not a terrible idea against Dark. I don't think that was the wrong idea. I just don't think he played it well enough in this series. And we see a really fast +1 melee this time from Dark. He's not even pretending to go Roaches. He's like, no, I'm just chilling. Now he puts the Roach Roaring down super late. So he's just, you know, he's comfortable here. Don't get me wrong, Reynor has defended well so far this game, but Reynor always scouts the Mutas a lot later. So one problem with Reynor's build is his Overseer seems to come up a bit later. So we were often seeing Serral's lair finish just past 5 minutes, even if he's defending Lingbane. Make an Overseer, immediately go in and scout the Spire before halfway. Reynor consistently was scouting that Spire a bit later. So not only was his defense worse once he was up to it, he was scouting the Spire when it finished each time. This time he did have creep connecting the base, which was good. And he does go for his own Spire. And this is, I think, a terrible... I don't know, man. I've seen Corruptors work really well, but I don't think this is the map for it, because you've got to defend here, here, and then all the way back up here. I think there's too many angles they can come from. It's hard for your Corruptors to cover everything. I also just don't like Corruptors as a style against Mutas. I just think that Infester, Roach Baneling on all sides, lots of Queens, Infestors that Serral showed, I think that's just the best way to play against Mutaling Bane. And remember the way Serral did it, guys. He built just 3 Infestors immediately. Yeah, he added a few more later, but I think like even just getting 3 Infestors off a really fast infestation pit, it adds so much. Those Mutas like, oh shit, we can't clump up, we might get fungal. You know, the Ling Bane's a lot more scared of that. But let's look at the defense, because I think it was the same situation. He has 1 Baneling, but he doesn't make any more Banelings. He needs them. Does split his Roaches, but let's check those control groups. Reynor here has 2 control groups, 1 on each side. And they are a bit better positioned this game. But, and he's actually in a much better position, right? Than we saw against that Serral game and the game 1 of this series. Where he's like, he's actually well positioned to not take damage. But look at that. He's just going to roll 20 Banelings in. If there was 2 Banelings here, you kill that. 1 Baneling, it will get them all in red. It won't finish them. The Muta also came in and clicked on that Baneling. That's why I said you often need to keep the Banelings back. If your opponent's really good with their Mutas, those Banelings need to be a little further back. And you can't let Lings get on the Queens. Same thing that happened on Acropolis. So unfortunate. Lovely Queen positioning there, by the way. A nice transfuse. But yeah, the Queens are just the more durable solution here. And the Spores and the Infestors and stuff. Now that he started taking damage, his Roaches are out of position. And then what happens whenever Reynor's under pressure, guys? I'm going to talk about that redundant APM cycle. Something I coach newbies on a lot, and you do see it in pro play, usually in grand finals, usually in the biggest stages. You don't see it very often, or with very new pro gamers playing against somebody who's a lot better than them. But look at this. Reynor's panicking. Reynor's panicking. Let's go on Reynor's camera, and I'm going to bring your attention. What's he done, guys? He's grabbed his whole Roach army. He's thrown it on control group 2. So he's just clumped all of his Roaches up in the panic. And now he's going to... Oh, shit. Actually, oh, damn. Okay, I need to... Oh, let's spread those Roaches out again. He's going to do it in a second. He's putting more Spores down. He's going, wait. Oh, shit. Banelings could hit me. He's going to do it in a second. All right, so he's just pulled all of his Roaches down here, and then he's split them. And he's just split half onto control group 6, half down here. But, oh no, we don't have Banelings. Ah! Oh no! And I love that. Dark ran in from this side. He knew the Roaches were up there, so he ran in from this side. So cute angling from Dark, but... Gotta have those Banelings spread across those bases, guys. You gotta go heavier on the Queens. And the Corruptors, you know, if the Mutas commit to a fight, the Corruptors are great. They can't be everywhere at once. Now, obviously, I think the Corruptors would look a lot better if he had the Banelings set up with them to stop the Baneling rumbers. I think once he started taking damage, Reynor's frantically trying to catch up on his macro, deal with all this stuff. And because of that, his Corruptors aren't in the right position a lot of the time. But this was, you know, a bit unfortunate. And he did kind of just get shut down from here. So let's put this on Dark's camera and really appreciate how good Dark's momentum and aggression. I've talked so much about Serral's mistakes. I've talked so much about Reynor's mistakes. Let's talk about Dark just being that big balls psychopath who just, you know, he senses weakness and he really is like, all right, I'm just going to put the pressure on, you know? It's like when you've got a really tactical MMA fighter and you can tell they're always trying to time it out and like really pick their shots. And strike very strategically. And then there's sometimes a fighter who's not as technical as them is like, well, I can't beat them in that fight, so I'm just gonna fucking just jump at them and start trying to punch them in the face and just create chaos and movement and make myself unreadable. I think what makes Dark so great is he is really good in the macro game. He's good at making good strategic reads and reactions and playing the careful game and the defensive game. He can do that. But he also, if he senses weakness, he'll just be like, I'm just going to run at you and throw punches at your face. And that's what he did to Reynor in this series. I think he just kind of carried the momentum start to finish and kept exposing small mistakes. And, you know, he was cutting corners. He said, oh, wait, I got you in a defensive mindset. I've got you kind of, you're getting a bit choked up here. You're getting a bit too stiff in your play. I'm going to go for an insanely fast +1 melee in this game and try and get some momentum off the back of that. It's really cool. I thought the pro players would get a few days early to get used to the time change. Oh, no. Yeah, we were all there for like 4 days, guys. No, we were there for like 4 days. I mean, you still get tired towards the end for sure. He just killed his own Mutalisk. Did you guys see that? Dark just killed the parasitic bomb Mutalisk. That's so funny. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to click that to get rid of it. I've got too much shit to do. Just kills it with his other mutas and then runs. That was cool. I do agree it's a very long day. I don't know if tiredness played a big part here, because I think Dark can just school people no matter what. Dark's such an experienced player and he's so good at this style. I do agree it would be better if we had 2 days though. A lot of the Blizzard people were saying, yeah, it was a bit too crowded of a show. We really are going to push for 2 days next year. You know, we want to make sure we get 2 days. And people at Blizzard as well, like they're open to all sorts of different choices. I personally wouldn't mind the global finals for WCS being separate to BlizzCon, and just so we get like a big event like of itself. And imagine if we could spread it out over like 2 weeks, all out of the GSL studios or like a live venue somewhere, and like really like do like this whole big group stage and then do a big stage, top 4, top 8 or something like that. I don't know. I think it would be cool where you can just, you know, have like a really, really cool, reliable setup. Whereas with a 1 day show, there's always going to be like, you know, issues that come up and stuff where the scheduling and the production struggle. Yeah. 4 days is not enough at all, by the way. It should be 3 weeks, says Kashanis. It's as good as you're gonna get. Every player was dealing with the same time change, and it is enough. Having like an extra three or 4 nights for esports, especially with something like StarCraft where we don't have a crazy amount of budget. Trust me, it's a lot better than we used to get. I used to get flown in the afternoon or evening before I had to play, when I was like looking at a 10-hour time difference, 11-hour time difference to Europe, like, because they're not going to cover your hotel and your stuff. Now, they're a lot better at that these days. They give players more time to adjust. They give them practice areas. They feed them. They take care of them. They pick them up from the airport with shuttles and you know, and taxis and things, and ferry them around and make sure they're, you know, they really do a lot better with that stuff. I agree. Ideally, you do want to have a bit more time. But, yeah, it's something which you've got to adjust.
Mineral field.
The time zone wasn't good for the US. It was really unfortunate for East Coast US. It was bad for EU. So yeah, time zone wise, I guess that's the problem with doing it in Korea. So I do agree with that, Bug Splatter. I think if you can hit all time zones, that is actually really cool.
The high cluster is under attack. Mutations are under attack.
The EU players did have to get used to 2 time changes in like 2 weeks as slowly falling. Yeah, that is true. Do they let you have time on contest PCs for key binding, says A-Something. Oh yeah, the players obviously all have their settings up. Back in the day, people would be like, oh, we need to go. And you're like, well, no, the fucking screen's not working properly. They're like, it's fine, just go. And you're like, no, like this computer's shit. Like we used to sometimes have to play tournaments on like computers that could barely run the game and shit. Like, so everything used to be real Wild West, just shittily organized tournaments. It's gotten a lot better. And a lot of the time, I don't know what they did at BlizzCon, but like at BlizzCon they had 4 PCs. So the other 2 players were set up and practicing on the stage while the previous match was playing the entire time. Some tournaments would give people a SSD drive, like that they could just hot swap in. So whenever a player would get off, they just turn the computer off, unplug their SSD, and each player had their SSD with their name on it. Whenever you'd go on stage, you'd just plug your SSD in, and it would have, obviously, all your settings. So that was always a really cool thing. IAM used to do that. They'd be like, oh, the new Intel hot-swapping SSD something. So it was a good sponsor thing as well. Dark played like a beast, man. He played so well. My sleep fell at like 4 a.m. when I gave up trying to sleep. Stood up well, at least like much of semis. Yeah, it was rough. So guys, I don't think anyone else has asked any other questions. I do think Ultras are a fantastic unit. Offling Bane Muta, for those of you who don't know. Let's keep watching from Dark's camera. This is actually just beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, I actually feel like this was great. This was I feel like the Ultras were a great choice. Serral played them very wrong. That's why he messed up that game. I really think Ultras are amazing. In hindsight, I would have preferred him going Lurkers. Because he knows how to play Lurker. He's the best Lurker Viper player. I would have preferred him doing that. And just swapping into the upgrades after +2 melee. Don't bother with +3 melee. In terms of Reynor, he needs to shore up his anti-muta play. I think he needs to find one thing that works and stick with it. He was kind of shifting. He did Corrupt as one game. He did Infest as one game. He rushed Hydra Lurker one game. I feel like Reynor just needed to pick one good response to the Mutiling Bane play and get it down. And like I said, most importantly, I think he needed Banelings. I really think Banelings are just an absolute game changer. against the Lingbane Muta player. Having just a pair of Banelings, blow up those, you pull your drones back, your 2 Banelings in the mineral line, kill their 20 Banelings. It's great. It's great. As well as we talked about positioning the roaches on either side. I think it's cool that we see +1 melee Muta styles come out up against these roach styles. We see more dynamic Zerg versus Zerg as well. I think this is awesome. This makes me really, really happy that we're seeing this more and more. And it's great. Yeah. So just to reiterate, the Vipers, you need to add Vipers with Ultras, and it's about backstabbing with the Lingbane. You don't use Lingbane in direct engagements once your opponent gets above a certain number of lurkers. So that was a huge mistake by Serral. He kept making Lingbane and throwing it into the meat grinder.